Herzlich willkommen. Ich bin Anne Leppin. Neben mir sitzt Maria Köpf. Wir beide sind die Geschäftsführerin der Deutschen Filmakademie. Wir wünschen euch allen ein frohes neues Jahr und sind total begeistert, dass zu unserer ersten Veranstaltung dieses Jahres schon wir so viele Rückmeldungen haben und auch vor allen Dingen so viele den Film Flee in den letzten 24 Stunden geguckt haben. Bei Flee kommen 2 Sektionen unserer Akademie zusammen, nämlich Animation und Dokumentarfilm. Und deswegen ist es auch eine große Freude, dass 2 Mitglieder und auch Vorstände von uns aus diesen Sektionen heute das Gespräch führen. Zum einen Emely Christians, sie ist eine der renommiertesten Produzentinnen von Animationsfilmen Deutschland. Ihr kennt Filme von ihr wie Ups, die Arche muss weg oder Überflieger und hat damit große internationale Erfolge gefeiert. Und ebenso freuen wir uns über Ali Samadi Ahadi. Er ist Regisseur und Autor und Produzent, Regisseur und Autor von The Green Wave und hat den großartigen, auch animierten Spielfilm Tiran Tabu produziert. Und jetzt freuen wir uns dieses Jahr auf seinen Kinderfilm Peterchens Mondfahrt.
And we're of course extremely pleased and happy to welcome our guest tonight, Jonas Poher Rasmussen. Hello, Jonas. Warm greetings to Copenhagen.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us and allowing us to show your film tonight. We're extremely happy because we think it's a fantastic film and that we could show it to the members and now discuss it tonight with you. It's really looking forward to this event tonight, which is sort of like the opening event to the German Academy tonight for this year. And we are really happy to have you here. So before we start into the discussion, I would also send out a warm greeting to another special guest we have tonight. It's Shabanu Sadat, filmmaker from Afghanistan. I can see you, Shabanu, but I know you're here somewhere.
Here.
Warm welcome to you. Shabanu just arrived in Hamburg in the end of August with the last wave of refugees after the airport in Kabul closed. And we already had her as our guest in the members meeting and at our members meeting in Hamburg. And I'm very glad you're here tonight to join us again. And you told me that you saw the film and that you also had a connection with the film in the past, but maybe we can talk about that a little bit in the discussion. But now, thank you all very much. Emely and Ali, the floor is yours, please. Looking forward to this discussion. There's the possibility, of course, to answer questions in the end for everybody, if there are any. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Maria.
Viel Spaß.
Thank you very much. So, you start?
Please, Emely, start.
Yeah, I'm very happy that we have Jonas here now today. And as I just learned, he's not in LA, but in Copenhagen, unfortunately. Not yet there. But yeah, great to have you. And Jonas is a Danish filmmaker, scriptwriter, director, and just did this wonderful film, Flee. I read a bit about you, so your creative background is in radio documentary. We might come to this later because that's, I think, an interesting topic for this film especially. And then you attended the 2013 workshop in Denmark, the Anidocs, where you, what I read, started to think about this project. So we could take it from there. Was it from the beginning planned as a long, full-length feature film?
No, not at all. You know, I had no experience making animation, so this was my first step into the animation world, and I bought this workshop called Anidocs, where they gather animators and documentary filmmakers to develop ideas for animated documentaries. And in the beginning, I thought this would just be, you know, maybe 20 minutes.
Okay.
But then, you know, Amin gave me this testimony, and I could pretty fast see, okay, but this is so much bigger than I thought. You know, I've known Amin since I was 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, my curiosity about his story was always there since he arrived in my hometown in Denmark. But I didn't really understand the full scale of the story that he was about to give me in the beginning. So I thought it would be a pretty short film, and then slowly, it just grew bigger and bigger the more he told me.
It couldn't have been shorter. So
No.
I think, yeah. And isn't it the most difficult thing to do in the world, to make a film about a friend?
I think it really depends on the friend. We've been friends for 25 years, and he's a very humble and generous man. And for him, he had also made the decision that he wanted to share his story. So it was quite symbiotic. I had this curiosity from the very beginning, and he came to a place in his life where he really felt like he needed to share his story, because for so many years, his past and present had been disconnected, and he really wanted to be able to bring his past with him. So it felt quite symbiotic, and we didn't really have conflicts in the process of making the film, which is surprising because it's such intense work. But I think we had kind of a mutual goal with this film, and I kind of followed his lead and followed the testimony, and then tried to support it as well as I could with the cinematic tools I have at hand.
I read in your biography. Well, I don't know how much in Wikipedia is true or not, but it seems that you have an immigration background too. Your family had to move from Russia, and then move from Denmark to Germany, and then move from Germany to UK, and then back to Denmark. So it is a very history of a lot of flees and migrations and so on. And is this background a part of your link to your film, to this story, or not?
I didn't think so in the beginning. To me, in the beginning, it was really just fundamental curiosity about my friend who had arrived, to my hometown when I was 15, with something that he didn't want to talk about, and I was really curious about this. But then, in the process of making the film, I became more and more conscious about my own background. And you're right, I wasn't a refugee, but my grandmother was born a refugee. She was Jewish Russian and had to flee the pogroms. She was actually born here in Copenhagen, in a hotel just close to the central station. And my family applied for asylum here, but got rejected, and then moved to Berlin, where of course, being Jewish was not the best, wasn't the best time. So she had to flee again, and then moved to the UK, and actually moved to the US afterwards. So it's a coincidence that I ended up in Denmark later on. But she had to flee all of her childhood and her youth as well. So I think in the process of making the film, I talked a lot to my mom and talked about how my grandmother's traumas kind of was, inherent in the family. Like the story of displacement was in the family. But me, myself, I've always felt very Danish. I grew up in rural Denmark. Of course, my mother was French, but still I feel Danish. But making the film made me realize, okay, but I also have this kind of displacement story in my family, and I thought about how this is something that can happen, to everyone. Even my grandfather on my mother's side as well. He was born in France in extreme poverty, and his family couldn't feed their kids, so he was sent to the French colonies in Western Africa. So it's kind of also a refugee story, but a different kind of refugee story. So in the process of making this, I really became aware of how this is something that could happen to everyone.
By doing this film, my daughter often asks me if I don't want to write what happened to me as a book, because I had to flee also from Iran when I was 12 and so on. And I always say I am just too close to the story. I can't. For that, you need a perspective from above, and which I don't have. And I think by giving your friend your eyes and your perspective from above, you are telling the story of so many people, and suddenly all this 5,000-6,000 refugees which are dying in the Mediterranean becomes an identity, and I'm wondering if the film is now quite a time in the festivals very successfully. You had tons of prizes, and I'm wondering if that success of this film and that special view from you moves also the politicians or not.
I really hope so. I heard back from the Danish cultural minister, who I think is very proud that it's on the shortlist for Oscars, but I haven't heard back from any other politicians. But I really hope when it gets a broader audience, the politicians will see it, and especially the ones who don't see the nuance in the refugee stories, who describe it very black and white, and then in headlines, and don't see that being a refugee is not an identity; it's something that can happen to everyone, and see the human stories behind these big numbers. So I'm hoping that it will make a change in people's minds, and if not the politicians, then hopefully the people who vote for the politicians will see it and change the politicians.
And you didn't.
Sorry, go ahead.
And you didn't only lend Amin, your protagonist, a view from above. You also lent him your ear, I would say, because you started with recording the story, and this probably took a long time. Did it?
Oh yes, it definitely did.
And it was quite intense, I guess, because it's a special setting for starting a film.
Yes. No, but it definitely took a lot of time also because, in the beginning, he wasn't sure if he was able to do this. So in the beginning, we just agreed that we would try it out. He said that he really felt like he wanted to share his story, but he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So for the first year and a half, I think we agreed to just try it out. So it was just two of us at my place, and him starting to open up and share his stories. And I used this technique of interviewing that I used in radio before, because when you do radio, you don't have an image.
Yeah.
So you need your subject in radio to be very descriptive in the way they talk. And I thought this could maybe come in handy here as well, because most of what he talks about is in the past. So really to make the past come back alive. So the reason why he's laying down and has his eyes closed and talks in present tense is because of this technique of interviewing.
He was really lying down.
Yes.
This was not only in the film. Yeah.
No.
So
this is a technique of interviewing that I use in radio a lot of times. And it's in Denmark we have quite a strong tradition for radio documentaries, and this technique is called moment interview, so like interview of the moment, and it's really about creating presence in the voice. And then he talks present tense, has his eyes closed, and whenever we start talking about a memory, I would ask him to be very descriptive and always begin with him describing the place he's in. So for example, in the beginning, he's in his childhood home, he's in the garden in Kabul with his siblings, and his sister is telling stories about the brother. But before he started talking about that, I would ask him to just have the memory in front of his eyes and describe what he saw around him. And then I would ask what plants were there, what were the colors of the walls, what weather is it like, what did the house look like, and these things. And one thing it would give us a lot of information, of course, for the animators that they could use to recreate these memories. But also, it brought him back to the specific situations, and he would kind of relive them instead of just retelling them. And new memories would occur. So it's really a way of creating presence in the voice.
Very visual approach in talking, right?
Yes, exactly. It's really about trying to create an image for the one who's listening. So that's why it's from radio. It's really about having people have images in their head while they listen.
Yeah. And then you only started to think about how to transfer this into animation, because you have different styles in your story, and the worse the situation gets, the more blurry the images are, I would say. So, or not blurry, but the less significant. So this came afterwards only. So you did the full recording first?
It kind of happened mutually. Like I did, I think, between 15 and 20 interviews during the span of 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
Because, in the beginning, there were things he wasn't ready to talk about. And we had disagreement that we would wait. He should just take his time. And then whenever he felt ready to talk again, we would continue. So we did a lot of interviews, but it took a long time. So in the meanwhile, we started trying to develop a visual style that could support these interviews, to support this testimony. And yes, you're right. Like we have three different kinds of animation in the film. One is the kind of classical 2D, where we try to show, a couple in the 80s as precise as possible, where we really tried to lean against the archival footage we found from that period. So it felt like connected, so it felt real. And then we have the present day sequences, which is, when he's out looking at a house with his boyfriend.
With his friend, yes.
Yeah, and here it's more because everything I also shot on video or shot on my phone, so I had, visual reference for it. And we tried to be as close in those sequences as well to, the footage. So you see jump cuts, you see this a little bit out of focus at times. You see these little details that kind of gives this fly on the wall experience in the present day sequences. And then we have these sequences, which is when he starts to talk about things that's really difficult for him to talk about, like his traumas. And you can tell in his voice that this is something else when he starts talking about these things. He starts to talk slower. He becomes more incoherent. And I felt like we really need to see this in the visual style as well, because now it's not about what things look like. It's not about what it looked like inside a house. It's about an emotion he has inside. And we really wanted to be able to show that, because it somewhat felt more honest, because all of a sudden it's not about what it looked like inside that container. It's about the emotion of a 12-year-old boy being afraid of what's going on with his siblings.
And emotions he put to the side for long years now, which he didn't talk about. No.
Yeah.
And you had archived material on top, real footage, and and the music. This, of course, brings us back to the time, to the real, back to the reality. The archival footage, it was really important to me to kind of remind people throughout the film that this is a true story, that the reason why he's forced to flee is because of historical events that took place in the world we all live in. And I wanted to remind people throughout the film that this is a real story, and underneath the animation you have a real person, and the voice is a real person. So that is in there really to remind people that, and also to create authenticity. And we grabbed, as I said, a lot of things directly from the archival footage and put it into the animation, so it felt real. And also, we have specific things that kind of came from the testimony. When Amin talked about this person in Estonia, he talked about that this Finnish TV crew came and filmed them. And then we could go to the Finnish film archive and find that footage. And the same thing, when the sisters are in the container on the ferry going to Sweden, that's the real footage. And he was also at the opening at the McDonald's in Moscow. So really trying to be as close to the real story as we could was really important.
And you are very successful.
Sorry.
And you are very successful in that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you have not had any contact to animation before that film, right?
No, I love animation, but I'd never worked. Like I didn't know anything about the process of making animation. No.
So how was your start? How you started the visualization of the whole project? What was your starting point, or how you got the right people and so on?
No, but it was really a quite steep learning curve, in the beginning. I didn't really have a lot. I just thought, okay, it would be great to animate this story. And then I met up at this workshop, and all the animators said, but animation is so many things. You can't just say that you want it animated. You need to be very precise on what it is you want. But then luckily we found an animation studio called Sun Creature here in Denmark, who were quite new. We met them when they had just done 2 films that they just put on YouTube that were quite successful, and then otherwise they just did commercials for the local plumbing in the city and stuff like that to earn money. But they're super talented, and they really took me by the hand and kind of step by step learn me a little bit about the process of making animation and trying to define a style of how we interpret this testimony that I was given by him.
Yeah, but still, I'm wondering that, for example, for the abstract scenes, it has this strength and this simplicity, which gives the mind of audience the freedom to put all the missing parts into this image. Was it the idea which came from the beginning, or was it an idea which grew by doing the project?
It came slowly. In the beginning, we didn't have the idea of the different kinds of animation. So one thing was really to kind of, because it's a story about memory and trauma, like how do you show this? Because sometimes his memories are vague, and to kind of show this vagueness, but also show the trauma. We thought, okay, but we need to be a lot more expressive and a lot more surreal than we were in the rest of the film. And then, also, making animation, because it's so expensive, you always think about budget. And this was actually also a way to kind of have some less expensive sequences. So it kind of went hand in hand, because I could see in the testimony there were these periods where he talked differently when he started talking about the traumas. And then we could go into this kind of animation that felt more simplistic and supported the feeling, but also cost less.
And was Emin the whole time involved in the project?
He was involved. Yes, he was there all along. Of course, during all the interviews and all the things I shot with him, we had conversations about what I wanted to do. But then also, I transcribed all the interviews and kind of made a document of the things I thought would be in the film. Because this story takes place during more than 30 years. So it's really about finding the right path through it. So I would gather that material and put it into a document, and then he would read it, and we would have a conversation, and he would correct me if I was factually wrong in places. And also we had conversations if there are things that he felt I had left out that was really crucial to understand his story. And then we would kind of discuss that, and I would put things back in and try to take other things out. And the same thing when we kind of did the animatic, which is this kind of rough animated locked edit of the film. He also saw that and commented on that in the process.
What was his comment?
There was I think one of the major comments was, at some point I had taken out the sequence where he is in the prison in Estonia, because there's a lot of really horrible memories he has, and at some point there was a lot just in a row, so I had to take that one out. And he told me that he wouldn't be able to recognize his story if that wasn't in there, because to him that was the worst part of the whole thing. Being stuck in this prison, in this refugee center / prison, and not knowing if he was going to stay there forever. He said even all the other things were bad, but that was the worst. To just being stuck in a limbo where you couldn't do anything and didn't know if you were going to stay there forever.
Mm-hmm.
And you went through this animation process now, and in animation we do the edit first and then, in a way, the filming. Do you like this? Did you like it? Would you do it
Yes.
again, or is
Yes.
it because it's kind of reverse thinking?
Yeah, no, but I really loved it. I've done documentaries before, and you go out and you shoot something, and you think you have a vision, and then you come back and start to edit, and you're like, oh, I missed that shot of that character, I missed that close-up shot, and then you have to work around it, or you miss some mood shots, or you don't have an overview and these things from a sequence. But here
you can just draw it. Yeah,
exactly, which was amazing. Like like the precision you can tell your story with was really amazing to experience, because in the edit you had storyboard artists who could provide you with the exact shots you really needed. It's also a little nerve-wracking, because everything is possible, and you're like,
you have to decide first.
Is this the right decision? Because everything is possible. But I really had a wonderful experience.
But the advantage is probably that you can see the film already very early before it's done, so you can have an idea if this is what you want to show and what you want to tell.
Yes, exactly. And we also went back, and actually I did some more interviews in the process of editing with him, because we would go into sequences and new questions would pop up, and I would ask, can we revisit this memory? And then we would go back in and kind of talk about it again. And so I think it was a very big experience, both for me and the editor, who also hadn't done animation before, Jonas Poher Rasmussen, and just to share like how much you can use your creativity in animation, because there's so many possibilities. It was amazing.
And you did it in Danish, right? Danish is the original language of the film, and then
yes, and then there's a bit of Dari in there and a bit of Russian.
Yeah, but not in English, which you could have done.
Yeah, we are going to have an English dub version of the film that's going to come out, in the UK and the US later on. I was a little bit in doubt if we should do that, but my sales agent thought it would be a great idea, because it's such an important story to get out there, and so just to get it out to a broader audience. And I couldn't disagree with that. So luckily we found some very good actors to do an English dub version.
How is the reception of? I mean, it is at the moment. I don't know if you have had already cinema releases in other countries or not, but in the festivals you were very much visible. How was the reaction of the Afghani community which saw the film?
But so far it's been really good. We had some local Afghans who helped out on the film and who did the voice acting for everything in Dari on the film, and they were really happy about it. And I've met Afghans around the world who come to me and say that this is also my story. I think a lot of people have similar stories, not the exact same, but the same experience of having to leave their home behind and being in this kind of limbo he was in for years, and spending years trying to find a place where they can stay again. And I guess Shah, you're here, and you also helped greatly, just to kind of give feedback on the language and on details about making this feel Afghan. But so far, the Afghans I've talked to really feel seen in the film.
Thank you. Yes, I would like to invite Shahbanu Sadat to tell us her experience and her view of the film. How was it for you, Shahbanu? Welcome to our meeting.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I watched it last night with my eyes full in tears in my bed. I watched a cut 2 years ago in 2019 when I was editing my film in Copenhagen, and Jonas was working on the film. But that time the film was not finished, and this last night was actually the first time that I watched the final film. And I think this time, even the first time, I was very impressed, and I wrote to Jonas. But last night I was even more, heated by the film because of everything that is going on at the moment, but also because, like in Afghanistan, we don't have an Afghan cinema, and and my fight is to make Afghan films, but I cannot really describe it because there are not really many references for Afghan films. But watching your film, Jonas, I was thinking that for me, you can be an Afghan filmmaker making Afghan film, because your film is so Afghan to me, to my definition of how an Afghan film should be. I think the story is so honest and based on truth, and it is the story of many Afghans having the experience of being refugee out of Afghanistan, in Iran or Pakistan or Europe or any other Western countries. And it is starting from my own family, like my sister or my close friends or the people that I know, my colleagues, it is the story of everyone around me. And I was really hit to see that in the film, because for us, for Afghan, this is not a very special story. It's just the story of everyone. You can find this story in any family, in each family, And I was really, really moved by it. I just remembered last night watching the film, I remembered my close friend who lost his father 5 years ago, and she lived in Switzerland since the last 8 years. But when she lost her father, she couldn't go back to Afghanistan because she did the same as Amin. She lied to the immigration office, because otherwise, they could just deported her back to Afghanistan. So she lied. She lied to the immigration office, saying that her father wanted to make her get married by force, but which was not true. She had the best father on the earth, and she felt very bad about it. And like the year that she got the chance to fly to Switzerland, she was 25 years. She was about to graduate, getting her bachelor on literature. And then when she went to Switzerland, she had to lie that she's a minor, because in Switzerland they didn't deport minor. So she lied and she said that she's 15. And then they put her back from, like she was about to graduate from getting her bachelor. They sent her back to 9th grade in school. And it was just insane, because when she lost her father, she couldn't go back. She couldn't even share this information with any, close friend of her on that time, or classmate, or people around her, because everything about her in Switzerland was lie. And I was very shocked and moved, and I don't know, I had like all kind of feelings for her, and I think like one of the reasons that a lot of Afghans, they cannot really integrate when they make a new home for them out of Afghanistan, it is this system in immigration office that now it's a different situation, because like for example, I've been evacuated from Afghanistan. Now with everything happening in August, things are different, but before that, you had to tell. No one cared for your reasons. No one even listened to you. The whole thing was the immigration office wanting you to say that if you get treated by Taliban directly on your face, but they don't understand that if you are directly in danger by Taliban, you are not alive. You are just dead. You could be just dead. So I was I was very. Congratulations, Johan.
Thanks.
You made a very great film.
And
I have a reference now to tell others.
Yeah.
Jonas, as you can hear, I for sure, as a documentary filmmaker, that anyhow, filmmaking is not, especially documentary filmmaking, is not only filmmaking, but it is also staying in a position and having a strong point of view. And obviously it starts, especially with films like Flee, you don't only make a film, but you move the society in a way also, or you are able to move the society. That was also the reason why I asked if the politicians have already reacted on that. But the other question is, are you working with any NGOs to promote the situation of people of Afghanistan as refugees here in Europe?
We're working on outreach and campaigning. We are working in the US, they're working a lot. Here in Denmark, I work with the DRC, which is the Danish Refugee Council. And we're trying to do what we can to get awareness around the film, just to, get some nuance around the refugee story, because what Amin told me was that he has a really hard time to find, refugee story he can reflect himself in. So to get a story out there where there's a lot more nuance to it was important to him. And we're hoping to get this out as widely as possible. And then we also have, fundraisings and stuff like that to support refugees, both here in Europe and in the US. So we do have outreach campaigning, and we have participant on board in the US who does a great job of kind of working with both UNHCR and the Choose Love movement to create awareness.
And has Flea a website for that?
No, I think it's mostly done on social media.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And how is Amin today? Is he still living in this house? Is
Yes.
it a home for him now, or is
it is? I just talked to him today. We're in touch all the time, and he's in the home, and he's there with his husband. The cat died, unfortunately, but they but they got 2 new cats, so it's all good.
So he really could accept this house.
Yes, he really did, and I think he was, when the world locked down because of this pandemic. I think he was a little concerned because he's always been on the move. He's always been going from one place to the other. And I think he was a little concerned to have to stay at home all the time with his husband in this house. But he actually really enjoyed it.
And the garden.
Now he don't want to leave, and he sends me photos all the time of gardens, of flowers in the garden, and what's going on in the house. So I think he's in a good place. He's like everyone else. You have a good day, you have a bad day. But definitely, he settled down in a way that I haven't seen before.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have half time now. I would like to invite our guests, if there are any questions, to come up with.
Otherwise, I think, Emely, you asked about the music, and I forgot to answer that. Because we all the pop music we have in the film really came from Amin. Again, it was from the testimony. One of the first conversations we had, he started talking about this Walkman he had, this pink Walkman he had, and I asked him what kind of music he would listen to, and I don't know, for some reason I thought he would say some local Afghan.
Exactly, and then
then out comes all these Swedish pop bands that I also listened to when I was a kid, and he listened to Madonna and Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson and all these things, of course. And so really the playlists from those conversations is what I try to put in the film. And then, of course, on the other hand, there's the score, which is made by a Swedish composer. But
it was good to relate to the time by this music. So, and I wouldn't have known as well that this was just the same songs that you listened to. And this is, I think it made him so accessible for us as well, for everybody. So.
Yeah, me at least, I realized that, of course, like how alike we were, we were born at the same time, listened to the same music, watched the same Jean-Claude Van Damme films. He loved to play volleyball and I loved to play football, so we were just being
but he had the better sneakers.
Yeah.
Good. So this volleyball sequence, that's very interesting as well. When his life changes completely during this game.
Yeah, totally. Of course, it's been coming slowly, and it feels more prominent here because it's a film. But it's true. Like all of a sudden, you could see, or he told me that you could see that the war was getting closer because they were really searching for young men to send to the front. and his brother was chased. His brother was chased through the city, which was of course a big difference from me, being in some small Danish village, just playing football.
You went on playing soccer, probably.
I could just continue playing soccer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No.
Thank you. Yeah, shall we open up for everybody for questions?
Ja, ihr seid herzlich eingeladen, habt bestimmt schon viele Fragen. Traut euch. Oder vielleicht habt ihr noch eine, Emily und
Not,
Ali.
I have another question. Yes, in an interview you once said, Jonas, you once said the stories find you. So what's next? Is there already a new story?
I have some stories. All this work with Lee is of course a little distracting, so I don't get to work on it
not at the moment, probably.
as much as I would like to. But I actually have these. I think I have them here. I have these Danish graphic novels that I might try to adapt into a feature. So this is one of them. It's called Deserter, and it's again based on a true story, but it's the father of the author. It's his story that I'm trying to do, but I'm just.
You need to find another style. Then probably it's already better in the novel. So
yes, it's going to be a very different style, and even though the stories are a little alike, this one is a bit more hardcore. Even though stories, of course, very hardcore, but this one is really about violence and how using violence dehumanizes you. But I would love to say more, but I really can't because it's all a bit up in the air. But I'm hoping that I can start focusing on my new work sometime this spring.
But so you would do animation again?
Yes, I would love to do animation again.
Not the first and last.
Yeah.
You are addicted now.
Yeah, we'll see. I had a very good experience with this one. I heard when it goes wrong in animation, it can go really wrong, and it could be really, really awful because there's so many people working on it, and if one thing goes wrong, it really has a effect throughout the entire team. But so far, I'm addicted. Yes.
And I guess as it's a European co-production, what you did, you had many financiers. So that's probably a long way in also financing animation for adults and for documentary. I only know that family entertainment is already hard to finance, and we already also have more than 20 financiers. But I would guess that documentaries for adults in animation is not easy.
No, it was very difficult. In the beginning, we went around and pitched it at different forums. And people kind of said, "Oh, this is a great idea," and then they would see the budget, and they, at documentary forums, and they would say, "Okay, but this can't be done. This is just silly." So it took a long time to really convince people that this could actually be done. It wasn't until we had Arte France come on board, really believed in the project and put in quite a lot of money, and also the French Film Institute, CNC. And then I think people started to realize, okay, but this can maybe it's possible. It's quite funny. We did this one pitch in Cannes, I think, and afterwards there were these drinks. And this guy came to me after the pitch, and normally people say, okay, what a great story, or it sounds like a wonderful film. But he was really just intrigued by our financing plan. He just said it was the most beautiful financing plan he had ever seen. So it was a very different
approach. Okay,
But with the success of this film, I'm pretty sure that the next project will be a bit easier.
I really hope so. Even though I think it was good for this project that it took so long, because one thing was me having to learn the process of making animation, kind of understanding the crafts, but also because Amin really needed the time to be able to open up and feel confident that this was the right time and the right way to tell the story. So actually, even though it was frustrating in the process, I think it was good that it took a while before we actually started production. But of course, I would love that for my next project to go a bit faster.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we have questions. Oder Ali, hast du noch eine Frage?
Nee, but maybe Matthias can go ahead.
Maybe Matthias, and maybe you would like to say the section of the Film Academy you're in.
Hello, I'm DP. I'm Matthias Fleischer. Jonas, thank you so much for this movie. I was deeply moved yesterday night because in addition to your deep friendship, the son of your formal decisions created such an honest and direct and moving impression, and still leaving enough space to not only take in the narrative, but really to get immersed into the story, and at the same time keeping a distance to oversee all the conflicts and all the situation you were in or you felt in. That was really, I've never seen something like that. So reduced in the animatic way and distraction-free, just focused on the point you wanted to tell, and even making the incidents more universal through this simplification in a way. So I was really deeply, deeply impressed and moved by that. And I have a question, because the film shows, at least to me, it felt like a lost youth of Amin, because he got to flee so early in his life and lost so many years, so much time, even education, but even just naive and playful youth. How did you know him first time? How much did you feel this depth or this loss when you met him the first times in school? I guess it was in school class, no?
Yeah, it was. I was 15, so it was. We kind of started, becoming friends because we met at the bus stop every morning going to high school, and so going back and forth. And it was a very small town, so not a lot. There wasn't a lot of people my age, so we just started talking. But I think when you're a 15-year-old boy, you don't think that far. Me, at least, I didn't. I just really appreciated that there was another boy in the village. And maybe it was for the better actually at that time, because I think he really wanted to not think about those things at that time, definitely. So it wasn't until later, I think in my 20s, and I think 15 years ago, I asked him if I could do a radio documentary about his story. Because I had a sense, there were these rumors going around in high school, and I knew that he lived in Russia for a while. So I had these little things that I knew about, and I was really curious about. But then, he told me that he knew that he really wanted to share his story, but he didn't feel ready yet. So at that point, I think I had the feeling, okay, but there's something here. There's a big story down here, and in our friendship all these years, it's been kind of like a black box in our friendship. And it's been between us as well. He told me, when you keep secrets like this, you keep people at a distance because you're afraid of getting exposed. So it's been coming slowly.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
So now, Ramin, whoops.
Yeah, hello, Ramin Yazdani, actor. Mr. Rasmussen, I congratulate you and your whole team for this wonderful film. Some of my questions were actually responded through the talk that you had with Emely and Ali, but I still have a question. And it's about the fate of the father of Armin. I mean, I don't know, it was your purpose, or Armin didn't want, or you didn't really elaborate too much about the fate of the father. I know at the time that he was arrested, there were two branches of communists, Parcham and Khalq. Shahrbanu maybe can say better about this time, but I believe that the father was a communist from one branch, and this Khalq and Parcham, there were also two communist sections who were in Iran, these countries, that when the father of the family or one important person of the family is arrested, the whole family is restless. They go sitting in front of the prison and they talk to why did you arrest our father or something like that. We just see that the father is arrested and we don't hear anything else about it. Was it your purpose, or Armin didn't want to elaborate?
No, but
Thank you so much for the answer.
Course. Yeah, thanks for the question. Amin's father was taken away just before Amin was born, so he didn't experience it himself. So what he tells is really, the story, how it's told in the family, how they talk about it, and the fact that their father had been warned. They had family who worked for the military, and that they had been warned that he would be taken away. And he was taken away because he was an intellectual, and he had worked as a professor at the university in Moscow and also in Kabul. So for some reason, someone felt threatened by him, and Armin doesn't know why and who. He just tells the story as he remembers the family talking about it, which is that the father had been warned, but he refused to flee. So he stayed, and then he got imprisoned and disappeared. And they tried, of course, and I think some of the siblings still try to figure out what happened, but no one really knows.
Danke für die Frage, Ramin. Jetzt haben wir Erald. Du hast einen. Du musst noch dein Mikro.
Can you hear me?
Jetzt.
Yes.
Hey. Hello, everyone. I'm Erald Dika, director of documentary. So, compliments. So, from me to you is really a deep movie. You said before that you know Amin 15 or 20 years ago. So you knew that was a story that you had to tell, no? And I agree with what Mr. Samadi said before, that when you make a movie, you move also society. So is a movie about the Afghani people, but also with migration across the world that had faced pretty much the same things. But my question is, when was that you understand that the animation was the key to tell his story, and not reenactment or classic documentary, for example? Thank you.
But it was really when I was invited for this workshop called Anidox in Denmark, because before that I had asked if I could do a radio documentary about his story. And then when I was approached by Anidox, I thought, okay, but maybe this is a way to tell his story. And I met up with him and asked him, and he was very intrigued by the fact that he could be anonymous behind the animation, because he really didn't want to be, in the public eye, because what you see in the film, what you hear, it's the very first time he talks about this story. And it's not easy for him to talk about. So he really wanted to keep control over when he wanted to talk about it. So that the fact that he could be anonymous behind the animation was really what enabled him to share the story at all, because he didn't want to, be in the public eye and people would know him and recognize his story and meet him in the supermarket and ask him questions about what do you feel like there and what happened, because this is not something he can small talk about. So I think when I had the idea and asked him, I saw, okay, but this is actually the only way we can tell it. Of course, we could just have blurred him out or made him, a silhouette. But I really wanted to make his past come back alive, and so the animation could both, be his anonymity, but also could bring back the story to life in a way that I felt could be more honest than if we tried to put, actors in costumes in a desert somewhere or in some mountain somewhere. So I think that was really where it came from. And of course, also I had seen Walls of Bashir when it came out in 2009, I guess. And I could see how, dealing with trauma, and also in Tehran Taboo, like how when you deal with trauma with animation, that somehow it kind of eases it up a little bit, and it becomes easier to listen to what's actually being said, because you don't have to relate to these human faces who are suffering. We're exposed to so many of these kind of stories all the time in the media, in headlines everywhere, in the news, in our feeds, and just speaking for myself, I block a lot out because I can't take everything in, because it just becomes too overwhelming. But because it's animation, that was my experience watching Walls of Bashir back then, at least, was that you listen better because you don't have that human face you have to relate to, so you can kind of actually listen to what's being said and you take it in more. So that was a lot of answers for a quite simple question, but it wasn't one thing. It was a lot of different things that really made me decide, okay, but doing this as an animation is the only way to do it.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I think there's one.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
I don't know how it works with the question. Can I just? Do you hear me? Hello,
Yep.
I'm David. David Sieveking. I'm also a documentary filmmaker, and I was also very touched and impressed by your film. And my question connects to the question before, because at the very beginning is this wish of your protagonist to remain anonymous, and you did this visually. But what about the interview? What about the sound? Is this actually a re-recording of his actual voice, or were you allowed to use his real voice, because it sounds very, very authentic? But this means it's not anonymous from the sound.
No, but it is the real voice. It is his voice you hear, and it is the recordings from the first time he tells the story. And you can say, in a sense, he's not anonymous, because a lot of people will know who he is. Because people will know it's my friend, and a lot of people went to high school with us. A lot of people. I've been friends with him for 25 years, so a lot of people will have seen us together, and you can go back to our village and find out who he is. So he's just anonymous in the sense that he don't want to be in the public eye. He don't want his face there. He don't want to be recognized by being that guy from Flea. He wants to still be able to, live a professional life where he can meet people on a clean slate, and they don't know about his traumas and his innermost secrets. So he is anonymous in the sense that people who don't know him already don't know who he is. But yes, if people really wanted to, I'm sure they could find him.
And there was no danger that the story and this coming out of him could backfire on his work or his status in Denmark in a political sense.
No, luckily not. He thought so, because the human traffickers thought so, but they don't know the law. So early in the process, we asked for his file, and we got it, and we had an attorney look at it. And immediately he said, but hey, this guy hasn't been given asylum because of his backstory. He's been given asylum because he was a minor, unaccompanied refugee minor from a war-torn country. So that was why he was given asylum, not because of his backstory. So there's no legal issues. And I was, of course, thrilled when I heard that. And I went to Amin and told him. And, he just became all silent. And it took me a minute to understand, but, he was just thinking back of all the years where he felt like he had to keep this story a secret, and that he might have been able to, go live with his family in Sweden when he had arrived, but he just didn't know. He didn't know the law, and he didn't dare to ask because he was afraid of getting sent back to Afghanistan.
Okay.
So, Matthias hat noch eine Frage.
Yeah, once again, me. I wonder how your creative process throughout the 4 or 5 years of film producing had been, like juggling with all these threads of storytelling. Normally you come home after shooting a documentary with hours of raw footage, but animating everything would be way too expensive and too time consuming. How did you narrow down everything else just by audio files, by text, by notes on the wall, or how did this creative process work? And then the collaboration with the animators, because you didn't have a DP at this time. Who was your closest collaborator or your closest team in this time?
No, so in the beginning, it was really just me transcribing the interviews, and putting it into a document where it felt like, okay, but this could become a film. And then I first did just an audio version of the film where I had the interviews in there. And then, whenever we had acted out sequences where his siblings talk together or the human traffickers, I would, do rough sketches of the voices. So I would voice everyone and try to do also because I have a background in radio. So I did kind of like a radio documentary first. And then on top of that, we built an animatic, which is a fully locked edit, but in storyboards. So you don't start to animate everything because you're right, it would be way too expensive to animate all 40 hours or whatever, how many hours until we would have. So we built this edit, but just on storyboards. And then when that was fully locked, when we thought, okay, but this is the film, then we started animating. And in that process of animating, I had 2 very close collaborators. I had a bunch, but the 2 most important was my art director, who kind of makes sure that all the backgrounds are on style, and also make sure that the animation and the backgrounds comes together in compositing. And then there was the animation director who kind of took care of the team that did all the animation, everything that moves in the film. And he had his entire team working on that. So those 2, I was in a room with those 2 and our line producer in a very small room, the 4 of us, for 8 months, I think.
So at a certain point in the timeline, you had just an audio file or audio version of this film and kind of every freedom to tell the story visually as you think. So you had to choose and narrow it down from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Complete freedom, but it's really a burden in a way.
Exactly.
But congratulations another time. It was really well done and well thought through, I thought.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Matthias. Very good question. Ramin, nochmal.
Mr. Rasmussen, have you been yourself personally in Afghanistan?
No, I was supposed to go a bit more than 7 years ago. I was in Estonia, I was in Moscow, and then I was supposed to go to Kabul. But then I think 2 weeks before I was supposed to go, the hotel where I had booked a room got bombed, and I don't know how many from the UN got killed. And then the Danish embassy called me and said that they thought it would be a very bad idea for me to go. And my wife was heavily pregnant and thought it was a bad idea to go. And I as well thought it would be a quite bad idea to go at that point. So I haven't been. I really wanted to, but I didn't find a chance.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Florian.
Hello, I'm Florian Opitz, a documentary filmmaker. And I have a very simple question. What was the budget of the film?
Oh, now you make me calculate, because I have the number in Danish kroner, and it's must be around 3 million euros, I think. I think in total, yes, 3 million euros.
3 million euros.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's very expensive for a documentary, but it's a low budget animated film, right, Emily?
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, and it's great quality that you got out of this for 3 million.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Did you animate only in Denmark, or was also work done in Norway or Sweden?
Animation was done primarily in Denmark. We had some artists who were placed around Europe. All the backgrounds are done in France. Sound and the composer, the compositions are done in Sweden, and the final mix was done in Norway. So it was really a
work split, yeah. So.
Yeah. But in France, we had great collaborators who have had an animation studio both in Rennes and one in Lille. In Lille, they did the graphical sequences, and in Rennes, they did all the backgrounds and the compositing.
Noch eine Frage von Nicola.
Yes, I've got a question. Well, I wanted to refer to Matthias, what Matthias said. First of all, I want to sort of give you the same compliments as he did, because I really thought the same about the film. And then you said that you did the film as a timeline in audio, and then you started animating when the film was kind of readily edited, if I understood it right. So where did the editor got into the whole process?
But that was when we started storyboarding. So we because I had just done the sound, so we had storyboard artists start to make storyboards for the entire film, and then the editor came on board and helped build the full edit before we started animating anything, before we started to do backgrounds or anything. So we had a long process, and it took, I think we were editing for 6 months, maybe a bit more even. Just trying to really get a hold of the story. But so yes, the editor Janus Billeskov Jensen and me were doing the edits in storyboards for 6 months before we started the first animations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's quite many characters that you have. I like the poster very much. So yeah. I think that's a good idea to see this variety of characters that were in the film, to put it all on the poster. So some character design was also done in Denmark in the studio. Yeah,
we had a character designer. Well, he was actually based in Berlin, I think, when he did it. And now he's in Athens. So but yeah, the poster was a bit of a coincidence, because we had just done all the characters, and then we had this character sheet.
It looks so good, yeah.
Yeah, and then we're like, okay, maybe this is just a poster. And also because I think there's a point to the film is really about diversity, and when you put all the characters together, you have Afghans, you have Norwegians, you have people in burqas, you have people in drag clothes, you have just the diversity of
yeah, it's a great representation. Even I can only see it from remote now, but you can see it's about people and about lives, and very good idea. Yeah,
yes, we've been selling it from the Danish Refugee Council's homepage and giving all the funds to their work in Afghanistan, and it's been going really well. They sold a lot of posters. It's really nice, because I think it really represents both the film and also it has a nice tone to it.
When was the Danish cinematic release? When was it in the cinemas in Denmark?
It was, when was it? It was in June. It was a really, really bad timing. It was on the day Denmark played Belgium in the European Football Championship.
We know what that meant.
and it was the first weekend of summer. I think like 3 or 4 days before that we had the premiere, this Danish football player had fallen on the pitch and with a heart attack. So everyone was talking about football, and everyone was watching football or going to the beach. So I think in the premiere weekend we had the film in 20 cinemas, and I think I don't know, 70 people saw it. It was really, really miserable. So it was a bad timing, but slowly it kind of caught up, and we sold some tickets. But it wasn't a good start.
Oh, it's very easy to pick a bad moment to start a film at the moment.
Yeah.
It just happens like this.
Yeah.
Without any...
Jonas, when is a screening in Arte planned?
I actually don't know. I actually don't know.
But we're still hoping that we will get distribution in Germany.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking, because if there's enough time, you can maybe have a distribution in Germany.
Yeah.
If the screening is not very soon in Arte, then you can find maybe a distribution here in Germany.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes they're willing to push a little bit.
Yeah. I think the screening might be quite soon. I think in France we have a distributor in France, but the deal there is that they're going to screen it on Arte before it comes out, but just once. And then, because
they want to kill the film in the cinema.
Yeah, I think they're really proud of the film, Arte, and I think they want to have they're co-producers on the film, so they really invested a lot of money in it. So I think they want that, on the Arte platform before anyone else in France. But I don't know. I'm not in talks with them. So
but there is a release in France. That's nice. It
is coming out in France, and it's coming out in cinemas in June or July, I think. So it's quite late. Yeah.
Well, it's a pity for us, and if there is still a little hope it will come out here, it would be fantastic, of course. So let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yes, please.
But, Matthias, one last question, but we don't have much time. But one last question.
Okay, I'm Matthias Brun. I'm an animation film director, and I'm really impressed by your movie. And it's hard to believe for me that this is your first animation movie, because it's so well done. And I know you were talking about your art director and your animation director, and I think congratulations to them as well. I know how important these people are, but at least, great director is a great director. You did a really good job. So my question is quite a simple one, because I'm interested how Armin is reacting to the success of the movie. I mean, you won some prizes. You're awarded different festivals, and so how is he happy with that? Because he was, quite shy in the beginning, and we can see that in the movie. And is he happy with that, or is he quite intimidated as well?
No, but he's really happy with it. He follows every step of the film, and I also keep him updated on what's going on with the film. And he's really happy how people react to the story, and that people can relate to his story. It's a very personal story, so the fact that people can relate and react so positively to it means a lot to him. But he's also, even more happy now that he's anonymous, because I don't think he really didn't want to be in. I would have loved to have him here right next to me. But
I would love to see him as well. But I totally understand that he's trying to keep his anonymity.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But so he's happy with it. The first time he saw the film, he was very moved by it, but he told me that he didn't know if he got moved because it was a good film. It was really, he got moved because it's his story all of a sudden on screen, of course. So the fact that when it reached an audience, that people reacted as that well to it, really means the world to him.
Well, say hello to him, and thank you as well.
Will. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, Jonas, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your experiences and your thoughts. We appreciate it a lot, and we are really. I hope very much that we will see very soon your next great piece of art, and I think.
And fingers crossed for the Academy Awards. So
yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Well, thanks also from my side, Jonas. It's great having you here and hearing you talk, and also for the movie itself, it's a great experience. And we also keep our fingers crossed because we learned the Danish Film Awards. The Robert, which is the Danish Lola, is coming up in February. I don't know if you already have nominations out or what the situation is, but we keep our fingers crossed for everything coming. And of course, our mental support for the awards, the Academy Awards, also goes out to you. We really love your film.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.